Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? Welcome again for another edition of Electric Avenue's YouTube updates. Uh, Bringing it to you week to week, all the new releases, and this is a sort of a moderate-sized week. We're on June 27th, 2025. Pretty much halfway point of the year. Hard to believe June is almost over. Next week, there's going to be some different things happening with the video. There will not be a video at the normal time next week, so I know you'll be going through withdrawal. Um, there's some things going on. I've got some things planned, and so got to get a little away time. But I'll be doing a video probably, if not right before, it'll be right after, and I'll include those things. So next week is 4th of July, and there are a bunch of things coming out, but as I said, we will have them sort of around that period. Mostly they're the things, only new release things really of note are the Kesha, the Wu-Tang Clan Live, and then there's a couple of Tone Poets from Sam Rivers and Dexter Gordon. So if you're into jazz, there's some Richard Ashcroft reissues that I'll either have. Probably those will probably be coming late anyway because they're imports. Rhino will be releasing the Doors series to retail, so we'll have the 6 hi-fis of those, and also Elektra has a 75th anniversary program, and from them they're releasing Superdrag, Heath Sweat, Public Image Limited, Television, Anita Baker, Afghan Wigs, Grover Washington Jr., Tim Buckley, and a Sisters of Mercy box set and a regular edition of First, Last, and Always. And I think there's also a Stooges Rhino Hi-Fi in there. So that's pretty much what you're going to be expecting on the 4th. There's no real big new releases. So it's kind of a good week. We're usually typically slow on 4th of July weekend anyway. We're usually closed on the 4th of July. So why they're choosing to actually release records on the 4th of July, I have no idea. I think it's kind of a silly business move, but guess they want to have stuff out there for people who are holiday shopping, I suppose. I don't know. All right, so this week, sort of big, and I'm going to start it off with the big thing that a lot of people have been waiting for, I suppose. It is very expensive, though. So, and I've put that out there before. So if you wanted it or want it, you really needed to let me know so I can get enough in advance. I have more of this on hold at the warehouse. And then also there might be a couple extras here just in case somebody was like, I thought about it and I really want it. Bruce Springsteen Tracks 2. This is the vinyl edition of Tracks 2. 9 records, $370. You can see the records there. These are all unreleased albums, and some of them are full albums, some are sort of compilation things, but you get the LA Garage Sessions from 1983. The Streets of Philadelphia Sessions, I believe that was from like 93, 94. Faithless, which is a soundtrack that he made, a double album, I believe, that was never released. Somewhere North of Nashville, a country album he made in the mid-90s while he was making Ghost of Tom Joad. Let's see, there's also Inyo, which is kind of a mix of a lot of different songs from different eras that he liked and put aside and then didn't use them. Twilight Hours, which is his kind of noir type album that he did during the Western Stars era and didn't release that. A fair bit of like crooning type stuff on there. And then Perfect World, which is another sort of rock album he did towards the end of this time. So 74 never before heard songs. Some of them are some of these things have been bootlegged a little, but a lot haven't. It says features 82 previously unreleased tracks, 8 alternative versions from different sessions, and one soundtrack song never available on a Springsteen album. It was a song he wrote for, I can't remember which movie it was, and then it didn't get used. And people say, well, that one's actually a little underwhelming, I suppose, but which is probably why it wasn't used. But overall, this is getting amazing reviews everywhere, and it is heavy. I'm telling you, it's heavy. I think Rolling Stone was giving it a good review. I saw a really good review from Mojo. Super Deluxe Edition.com did a really great review. So there are reviews out there. Go read about it. There is a compilation version of this. So if you don't want to spring for the 370 on vinyl or the 300 for CDs, it's still pretty steep. There's a book in there too. You can get Lost and Found, which is a compilation of some of the highlights of the Springsteen box set. 20 previously unreleased tracks from 1983 to 2018 available for the first time. And so this is kind of a nice little bite-sized morsel. It features Follow That Dream, Seven Tears, Unsatisfied Heart, Blind Spot, Something in the Well, Waiting on the End of the World, Faithless, God Sent You, Repo Man, Detail Man, You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone, The Lost Charo, Inyo, Adelita, Sunday Love, High Sierra, Sunliner, I'm Not Sleeping, Rain in the River, and You Lifted Me Up. There's also a song in the box set that has been talked about quite a bit, and it's not on this. Something about the Klansman, and it's a story of a young boy who finds out his father is in the KKK, and his father's trying to use him to recruit people. And people say that's a very haunting, kind of timely song. So as much criticism as Springsteen gets for politics and whatnot, I think he seems to have his heart in the right place all the time, and that's not something that you can just conjure up. It's people either have it or they don't. And so I'm really interested in hearing this box set. I'm sort of a casual Springsteen fan, but I respect a lot of the work that he's done over the years, and I think it's pretty amazing that he had all of this stuff in the vault. And there's already been an announcement that he's got tracks 3 waiting in the wings, which it's another 5 albums. And I believe one is the album he did with the E Street Band between Nebraska and Born in the USA, that actually, or somewhere in there, maybe it was prior to Nebraska, but it features the band doing a lot of the Nebraska songs, which is a pretty acoustic album. There's also some of that era stuff in here as he was kind of working towards Born in the USA, but he ended up not using a lot of those songs or those recordings. So, and if you can't get enough Springsteen, there's also the Rockabye Baby, inspired by the songs lullaby renditions of Bruce Springsteen, that comes out this week too. So there's also the double CD, and there's, like I said, the CD box set. All right, moving right along, Lorde and her new album Virgin. Lorde, it's been maybe 5 years since the last one already. People were saying, oh, she's getting so beachy and whatever. So this album is a little bit of a return to a little bit edgier territory. It's on blood color vinyl. So I guess dark red. And it looks like maybe 10 tracks, 11 tracks, 2, 4, 6, 10, 11. So, she's already released a couple of singles from it, so go check those out. She's popular. She's sort of in that Billie Eilish type genre of people. Another great album coming from Durand Jones and the Inclinations, and this is their new album, Flowers. If you're unfamiliar with Durand Jones, it's kind of a band. This is a collective here. It looks like 3 guys in the picture now, but it does feature Aaron Fraser, I think the guy in the middle, who's a drummer, and has a really beautiful kind of sweet high soul voice. So he drums and plays drums and sings at the same time, and then the other guys sort of riff on it. It's a very old school R&B, old school kind of soul type stuff. Someone more new school, to say the least. Playboi Carti and his album I Am Music is out on vinyl finally. This is kind of a big deal. It took him 6 years, 7 years, at least 5 years to get this out. This features a lot of collaborations. Travis Scott's on a couple songs, The Weeknd, Future, Lil Uzi Vert, Kendrick Lamar. This is a pretty hip-hop album, but Playboi Carti, he's kind of seen as like one of the newer rappers that people were really sort of waiting on, and that's been streaming for like a month or two now. Last year, 2 years ago, my nephew came to visit, and he's like, hey, Unc, have you ever heard Playboi Carti? And I was like, not really. And so we sat down and listened to the whole record of A Whole Lot of Red, and I was pretty impressed with it, actually, in a way. And here's another Playboi Carti record, a little older one that gets a reissue. This is Dilit. This one features Travis Scott again, Skepta, Lil Uzi Vert, Nicki Minaj, KOD, Chief Keef, Young Thug, Gunna. I don't know when this specifically was done. Let's see, does it have a date? This just lists 2018, so a little bit earlier even. All right, moving right along, since obviously hip-hop is not my expertise. Robert Randolph and his new record, Preacher Kids, and this is his first album for Sun Records. He hasn't made an album in about 10 years. Blues guitarist. It's a long time to go without making a record, and I don't know if it seems like Robert is one of those people that he likes to be more of a player than always like writing music, and maybe he had a little bit of a block, or who knows. But this is pressed on Roosevelt Pool Blue vinyl, and it says debut solo album on Sun Records includes Sinner, Big Women, and When Will the Love Rain Down featuring Judith Hill, produced by Shooter Jennings. There's also a song that features Margot Price, really great alt country singer, on there as well. This album is getting a lot of talk on the socials, and it's supposed to be really interesting. It's another hip-hop record, but with sort of a horror goth kind of vibe to it. Billy Woods, and this is his new album, Gollywog. And he's basically taking the image of the Gollywog and making it more spooky through the raps and the stories on it. And people say it's really great. I still need to check it out. It's only been streaming, so now we finally get it on vinyl and CD. Great kind of creepy cover, as it should be. Okay, Muna and their live record, Live at the Greek. Muna is a very popular trio of women, sort of like lesbian-centric, but their music is really great. They're kind of electro-pop, a lot of the stuff. Great players, too, great band. Kind of comparable to Haim in a way, I suppose, but a little more sort of pop than that, I suppose. This is their first official live recordings, now available on limited edition opaque silver vinyl. Includes music from across their catalog, so it has stuff from all of their albums, and there's like 18, 19 songs on it. So Muna fans, you want that. All right, F1, the movie soundtrack, sort of about racing, I suppose. And this is new songs from Ed Sheeran, Tate McRae, Doja Cat, Rosie, Burna Boy, Chris Stapleton, Ray, Tiesto, Mike Towers, and 5 more. So the F1 soundtrack finally out. I think people have been waiting for that for a little while. Adrian Quesada and his new record, Psychedelicos Boleros. Psychedelicos, I know I'd get that wrong. Boleros Psychedelicos 2. Adrian is a member of Black Pumas, and this is the second album he's released, featuring special guest Cuco, Hermanos Guitares, Ed Maverick, and more. A love letter to psychedelic bolero music, a genre tucked away in the cushions of time, says NPR's World Cafe on yellow vinyl. There's a picture of Adrian. So that ought to be interesting too. So much good music out there to check out. Too much for one person, but I try to give you some options here, things to choose from. All right, M83, and this is a new record from M83. It's a soundtrack to A Necessary Escape, the Dakar Chronicles original soundtrack is what the cover says. Turquoise blue vinyl, original film score. M83 is Anthony Gonzalez, is sort of electro, sort of synth. Sometimes it goes into horror type stuff, but it's mainly more kind of pop based, sort of, or electro rock kind of stuff. So, all right. There's a really cool series of records that Rhino has been doing called the Rhino Reserve. They've only released a couple so far. It was Eddie Hazel and I'm trying to remember the other. Alan Toussaint. And so we get 3 Rhino Reserves this week. The first one is The Meters, Fire on the Bayou. It's in this really cool cover with this label here. And so these are all specially remastered. Going 50 years strong, The Meters' treasured 6th album is a groove-filled cruise through prime mid-70s New Orleans funk and soul. Lacquers cut from the original analog masters by Chris Bellman at Bernie Grunman Mastering. So this is probably about the best-sounding version of this record that's out there. Let's see. You can kind of see what the back is like there. So that's great mid-70s Meters. Baby Huey, the Baby Huey story. And this one is produced by Curtis Mayfield. James Baby Huey Ramey's posthumous debut album has become a cult classic among soul and hip-hop fans. Same Bernie Grunman and Chris Bellman stuff. So yeah, he'd already passed away by the time his debut record came out, which is sort of a shame, but you can see he probably was not in the best of health there. So, but the Baby Huey story. And then also Otis Blue, gets a nice remaster from this Chris Bellman and Bernie Grunman. Recorded almost entirely in a single day. Can you believe it? Otis Blue delivers some of the strongest soul renditions ever put to tape. So this features Respect, Change Gonna Come, I've Been Loving You Too Long, Satisfaction, You Don't Miss Your Water. A really good set. Iconic. A release this week from Original Jazz Classics, Lee Morgan, and this is early Lee Morgan. It's called Here's Lee Morgan. Look at how young he looks there. This is, let's see, Morgan, the 22-year-old from Philadelphia, heads a blowing session here distinguished by A, an excellent rhythm section, B, Jordan's tenor, C, Kelly's piano, and his own burgeoning horn style, D. It features Lee Morgan on trumpet, Cliff Jordan on tenor sax, Wynton Kelly on the piano, Paul Chambers on bass, and Art Blakey on drums, mastered by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. That has all the right names attached to it. And yeah, new Lee Morgan reissue. And then this is really cool too, Buddy and the Juniors. This is a reissue by Verve Acoustic Sounds. And this is a Buddy Guy with Junior Wells and Junior Mance. And so they're pictured as little babies in the cart here. Crib. But yeah, so this is a jazz, or not jazz, but a blues record that they did, I want to say very early 70, late 69. December 69. It was kind of recorded in like an improvisation session that these three had. And the first track is called Talking About Women, obviously, and it's 10 minutes long. Then you got Riffin' and Buddy's Blues. Side 2 starts with Hoochie Coochie Man. So anyway, this has gotten a really nice reissue from Verve Acoustic Sounds, who usually does like more jazz titles, so it's interesting to see that. Charlie Mingus, Live in Paris, Volume 2. This is on Culture Factory. It's yellow vinyl, newly remastered for high quality listening. One of Eric Dolphy's final recordings on translucent bright yellow vinyl. There was a Volume 1 that came out a couple, like a month ago or so. So they're sort of a pair. All right, also features Jackie Byard and Cliff Jordan again. So there's that. Mingus. Another thing Culture Factory released, Bossa Nova, and this is on opaque purple vinyl. New Brazilian jazz from Lalo Schifrin, and features a few other people, Jose Paulo, Jack Del Rio. But it's Bossa Nova, 1962. It's Lalo Schifrin's first solo release. Fast-paced, fun Bossa Nova at its peak. The vinyl has been out of print and unavailable until now. If you're into Bossa Nova, I mean, that's pretty iconic there. All right. Robin Trower. So last year we got this one up here. A Bridge of Sighs. There was a vinyl that was a mess when they released it, like they had to delay it, and then I don't know, there were production issues with it, but eventually the vinyl came out in that nice little CD box set. This one, the album that came after, I believe, For Earth Below, 50th anniversary edition, 2025 remaster and stereo mix, mastered and cut at half speed at Air Mastering. And there's liner notes, an interview with Robin Trower about this. Recorded at the Record Plant Los Angeles in late 1974. It was the follow-up to Bridge of Sighs, hitting gold status in the USA. It solidified his position as one of the most revered guitar players of the era. He was in Procol Harum, and just continued with some really great releases here. Twice Removed from Yesterday was another one that they did. But Bridge of Sighs is seen as the sort of masterpiece, but this is a really great album too. And there is a little mini CD box set for it, if I can grab it out without knocking everything over. Sort of looks like that. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Motorhead and the Manticore tapes. This is the original Lost Never Heard album from 1976, recorded at the legendary Manticore Studios, making the first ever recording with the classic Three Amigos lineup at their rawest. Includes additional alternate takes and instrumentals for unique insight into the birth of this legendary band. So Lemmy Kilmister, and his compatriots. So this has Leavin' Here, Vibrator, Help Keep Us on the Road, The Watcher, Motorhead, and then a bunch of instrumentals and alternate takes. It's pretty cool if you're into Motorhead. I'm loving this era that we're getting all these records that, you know, that and all these Springsteens that, who knew? Quicksand and their album Slip. This is a reissue. 30th anniversary from the 1993 original master tapes. Diver Orange Marble Vinyl. And this is sort of like a heavier grunge, sort of heavy rock classic of that time. Produced by Steven Hagler. I can't remember what the single was from this, but it was kind of a popular, it wasn't as popular as, like, you know, Alice in Chains or Pearl Jam or anything like that, but it was still popular with the kids. Speaking of kids, the Kid Loy and his reissue of this album, first time on vinyl. No, it's called, I'm sorry, it's called The First Time, and it's on deluxe vinyl. Actually, this might be a new record. I don't know much about him. This is one of those artists, 2025. he's one of those artists that people have asked for before, but we've had an impossible time getting any records by him. So at least it's nice that there is a record by the Kid Loy. Now we can sort of like meet the people. Dr. Dog and an album called Easy Beat. This is an early Dr. Dog that's being reissued. They're from somewhere in this area. And a very popular band now nationwide. But yeah, this is from on their We Buy Gold records. I don't know if I've seen this on vinyl before. It might have been out once or twice, but it's not one that's on vinyl a lot. Best of Charlie Patton. This is sort of a reissue here. Classic blues from the 20s and 30s, and I'm talking 1920s and 30s. After 90 odd years, Patton's sheer focus and magnetic, almost palpable presence will still jump out of your speakers and grab you by the throat, says Rolling Stone. He did have a pretty raw style, and this is on Yazoo Records. All right, so be aware, Charlie Patton. Lynyrd Skynyrd has a Live at the Ryman record release and CD. The CD, I believe, also there's a version that comes with a DVD. Limited edition indie record store exclusive on gold vinyl. This was done just like a couple years ago, I think. So celebrating 50 years. It might have been done in the last year or two. Anyway, it features guest appearances from Joan Osborne, Marcus King, Jelly Roll, Donnie Van Zant, and Brent Smith. So there's a 12-minute version of Freebird at the end and Sweet Home Alabama. I mean, of course, what else would you expect? Obviously not the original band, because after 50 years, they're all sort of gone, or most of them are gone. And then the 20th anniversary of White Stripes' Get Behind Me, Satan. And this was the album that followed Elephant. And when it came out, it kind of confounded people because they're like, well, this wasn't really what I expected. It's different, but it's actually really good. Says Satan, You Got Served by Rolling Stone magazine. Limited edition color vinyl. I'm trying to remember the name of the single from that album. Anyway, it's been so long since I've heard it. All right. I was going to review a record today. Let me see if I have it up here. Hold on just a second. I gotta move some of this stuff. Too many records. Oh yeah, so I mentioned Yazoo Records just a second ago. I was talking about Charlie Patton. Well, the band that I'm going to recommend this week, and I kind of mentioned it in a recent video, is Yaz, and their album from 1982, Upstairs at Eric's. Yaz was actually named Yazoo over in the UK when they started, and they were threatened with lawsuits by the record company. You can't use our name. So they cut off the ooh, and so in America they became Yaz. This just got reissued by Rhino Records a couple of weeks ago. It is kind of a synth pop record of the early 80s, sort of my era of expertise, because that was the era that I kind of came up through. But the reason that I'm sort of mentioning this is it was a real cool marrying of soul and futuristic electronics. Vince Clarke had been in the band Depeche Mode for one album. He wrote most of the songs on that record, Just Can't Get Enough and New Life, and it was a very poppy boppy album. And after that, he was like, you know, there's too many screaming fans coming to these concerts. I don't want to be in this kind of chasing fame sort of situation, but I still want to make pop music. So he kind of had some issues, I guess, with the guys at the time. I'm not really sure what, but he left the band after just one album, and they went on and did very well, considering that they lost their primary songwriter after one record. And he sort of was putting feelers out, put an ad, I believe, in a newspaper. Anyway, he ended up getting Alison Moyet in, who was sort of a friend from the Essex area. Brits can probably tell you more about this than me, because they lived right around there. But he's like, can you come in and sing on some of these demos? I've got some tracks. And, you know, she was kind of a blues singer, young. So she came in and sang on them, and, you know, little did they know, those would get released and became huge hits. This one features Don't Go, the first song, a very like catchy, dark sort of synth pop soul song, with a very like aggressive vocal from Allison, I think, Alice Moyer. Only You, also a very pretty pop song, very like sweet. That sort of begins side two on this. They did two albums together. The second one, You and Me Both, didn't do quite as well, and part of that was when it came out, Vince was already like, I really wasn't intending on this to be a full, like, lifelong project. And Alice and I like her, but I just don't know if we're, like, really gonna vibe for that long. So he pretty much called it quits on the second project after just two albums. The second one came out, and pretty much when it was coming out, they were already breaking up. So he went on to a third thing, tried to do a little band called The Assembly with Fergal Sharkey. That didn't really work. Put an ad in the paper. Ended up hearing from a young guy named Andy Bell, who was pretty flamboyant and had a pretty choir boy voice type thing. Formed a duo called Erasure that ended up being massive in the whole second half of the 80s. So very few artists can say like they wrote songs for like not only one or two but three bands that all were hitting the top of the charts in the same decade. But anyway, back to Upstairs at Eric's. So Eric was a guy who was sort of like a studio engineer or whatever, and so it was kind of referencing the place that they were recording the tracks for this, and it has such a stark image on the cover of these mannequins that have been sort of bodily separated from themselves, sort of staring at this table. Sort of typical odd 80s imagery, but it's very, it sticks with you. And anyway, so this is 11 tracks now. In England, this was originally released. Side 2 had a song called Tuesday, and it was kind of a slow little marchy type song, and side 2 really needed a kick to it. And in America, this was the era when Sire Records was deciding to reorganize track listings, remix things to make them more palatable for American audiences. And it wasn't just Sire, like Capitol did that too with Duran Duran. And so they basically removed that song and put a B-side on there, which was called Situation. That song was a big club song that was huge in the clubs in America, sold a lot on a 12-inch single, but they put the full 5.5-minute version on side 2 here. So it kind of lifted the second side, and it gave people another reason to buy the album. And that song she still plays. Allison played solo recently here. I saw her. She was still playing Don't Go, Only You, and Situation live. So those three songs are pretty much solidified in her canon of repertoire at this point. From 1982 to last 43 years, that's a long time. But anyway, the rest of the album, Two Pieces, is a very kind of sweet, kind of sounding song. It's a little bit more about a breakup, but it's a pretty song. Bad Connection is more boppy. Midnight is kind of dark, and In My Room is also got these odd spoken word things. Vince was kind of experimenting with spoken word a lot, and so the first side of this also features a track called I Before E Except After C, which is just looped talking vocals for like 3 minutes, and that can be a little testing for some people's patience. But the rest of the album is like definitely a 5-star record. Side 2, you get Only You, Goodbye 70s, which is basically kissing off a decade of like all the bad things that it stood for, and that's a very kind of funky type song. And then Situation, another club song. Winter Kills is just a very beautiful kind of quiet, hushed, whispery song, very like mellow for this record. And then the last one, Didn't I Bring Your Love Down, super funky, synth funk. I think for Vince, between the first Depeche Mode album and this one, he really was developing a little bit more of a funky sound with his keyboards, and they sounded a little less sort of kind of robotic, a little less Kraftwerky, and a little more like Tom Tom Club or G Funk, or I'm sorry, P Funk. What am I saying here? G Funk wasn't around yet. Gangster Funk, Parliament Funk, more like that. You know, a little more soul. And so overall, I think this is a really great album, iconic album of the '80s. The reason I'm putting this on the video is many people might know this, but a lot of young people might not have a clue as to what this is. So go listen to it and see if you like it, stream it, whatever. And they just reissued it on clear vinyl. It's very reasonable for $26. So anyway, that's all I really had to say this week. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching again. We'll be here, like I said, it'll probably be another couple weeks at this point before you see a video. So I hope you don't go through withdrawal. I just can't help but be like, where's the video? Where's it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. All right. Thanks. I'll miss you for a week. I go through withdrawal too. If I'm not doing these things or not around people like normal, I start going, certain people that I see every week or two, and I'm like, oh my gosh, are they okay? What's wrong? And I start reaching out. So anyway, have a wonderful 4th of July if you don't hear from me before that. Okay? Peace and love. See you next time.